What differences have you seen over I mean, you've probably I mean, I'm sure the students you had 17 years ago are a little bit different than they are today. What would you say are the main differences that you personally have witnessed?
Yeah. So I think I would boil it down to a couple of key categories. One, their ability to focus on an idea for a length of time has shifted.
Mhm.
So for example, any idea, um, unless there's constant like stimulation, just staying with it, they just get distracted. They don't stay on point as easily without more help. And so that's one big overarching factor. Second thing, is just some basically some soft skills that kids and students don't do anymore. They don't look you in the eye. A lot of them won't look you in the eye anymore, because and a lot of them, they won't know how to kind of talk about ideas and have the willingness to process out loud. I think they're taking less risks out there. They don't want to seem stupid, in
Mm.
ways that people before would ask and answer questions. And we've and look, we've all been there, right? We've said things that what, maybe that was not a great thought, but I'm on the way to a good thought, right? I'm
Yeah,
learning,
yeah.
right? And that's part of the process. And that's awesome with students and curiosity and all those kind of things. So their ability to stay with a thought, um, honestly, you have to probe and get them to care about things that they should care about a little more with this generation, because it's not front of service. Because in many ways, and maybe we can talk about this piece too, but one of the things this generation, they're addicted to their devices. So it's like digital pacifiers. So anytime they're anxious, worried, sad, lonely, anything like that, they're like, "Oh, I get my phone out." But also, this is also the most medicated generation that's ever existed, and it's very much a therapy culture. So
Yeah.
whatever our phones don't deaden, pills do for students. And so they're not able to have the normal cycles of sadness. Being sad is not the same thing as being depressed. Having stress is not the same thing as having an anxiety disorder. And yet, and again, there's biblical counseling, there's important things. Sometimes medication is necessary. Let me make sure I say all that up front.
Sure.
However, we live in a culture that either gives kids a pill or a phone. And if one doesn't desensitize them and calm them, quote unquote, which basically is distract or deaden them to their what they're feeling or thinking, then the other does. And so in many ways, you have to wake them up and allow them to come out of that phone fog to be able to engage and process and engage. And that's part of what we have to do, but both in our families, but also in the classroom and as we're trying to disciple them.
I don't know if we've talked about this, but did you read Bad Therapy by Abigail Schreier?
I did. I
Yeah, that
did.
book was a real eye-opener for me, and I've talked about it on the podcast before. I've also talked with Natasha Crane on the Unshaken Faith podcast about that. So if anybody's kind of curious what I'm talking about,
Mhm.
it's really an important book. Abigail Schreier is not a Christian, but she really observed kind of this therapy culture and how not all therapy is really helping, and talk therapy can end up really causing you to focus on negative thoughts, and I've
Yep.
seen this so much, even especially among younger people, where they might think, well, I have ADD or I have ADHD, so therefore I can't read books or I can't do this or I can't do that. And it's almost like all of this, and again, like you said, of course there are real diagnoses, there is a real need for medication at times, nobody's saying that's not the case, but
Right.
this over medication and this quickness to sort of jump from, okay, this is your diagnosis and this is how you deal with it, and because of that you can't do certain things, it really, I think, in a way leads to a more of a weakness of mind, as I think we're seeing in this younger generation. I do want to ask you though how you see this affecting families, because I will just tell you that I even have friends who are divorced, and that is one of the main reasons they wanted their kids to have a phone, because maybe they don't trust the ex
Mm.
spouse and they're thinking, I want my kid to be able to reach me at all times.
Yeah.
And I actually have a friend who she's actually the one who taught me about all of the different parental controls on the Apple phone. I would have never known about all this stuff if she hadn't
Mhm.
opened her phone and showed me what all can be done. But I know that that was something that was important for her, and that's why she got her son a phone at such a young age, is because she wanted to make sure he could always contact her if they're with dad or whatever's going on. And so it can really present a dilemma. And I think that to a certain extent, most people of our generation are feeling maybe not that exact dilemma, but some sort of a dilemma, because this has an effect on families too, and the way our families are
Mhm.
structured has an effect on what we do and the decisions we make about the phones. So, what have you been observing about that?
Yeah, no, those are really important questions. So I'll come back to those particular situations in just a second, but at a high level, the way I think I would get at this is going, look, have you ever been in a room and then all of a sudden you're there with your kids, your family, the people that you intended to spend time with, and then all of a sudden the people outside of the room became more important than everyone inside the room, all the notifications, the text messages, the posts, the whatever's, and then all of a sudden everybody's drawn in about 12 different directions, and we don't have the ability to stay focused. Sherry Turkle, she's an MIT psychologist. She wrote, um, she's written on this topic a lot, but one of the quotes that really resonated with me was, because of our screens, we are forever elsewhere. That's the way she put it.
Yeah.
It's almost like we can't be fully present anywhere. So the first thing for families, I mean, we're already busy enough. If you've got sports and you got school and you got church and you got all, we're already trying to get everywhere, and it's just hard to try to grab time. Layer in on top of that the fact that everybody's on their devices, including moms and dads, and now we're like, okay, is this present time, or is this everybody doing stuff or getting stuff done time, or is this I'm scrolling time? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? So there's that layer. And then there's the layer, the dynamics that you talked about, where we go, well, look, in a perfect world, like, there would be both mom and dad in the home and it'd be a healthy environment, but that's not always the way it works in a fallen, broken world. And so now we have dynamics that we have to navigate there, in terms of, well, I want to be accessible. And there are ways to do that solve those things. And we'll come to this, but one of the questions we have to ask our devices is, what problem are you solving for me?
That's good.
And so that's really what I'm wanting to think about, because so many of us approach just kind of giving a phone as like, this is the solution to all the problems. Go. Board, alarm clock, it's paying, it's credit card, it's all the things. Well, that isn't going to work. That's actually going to make us more addicted to our tools and our devices. So one of the first things that we have to ask is, what is this thing for? And what problem is it trying to solve? And so when I think that'll help in the family dynamic, because there's different tools. Well, do I just need to know where they're at? Okay, then you can solve that a couple different ways. Do I need to be able to access them or give them a call? Well, then I can do that a couple different ways. I don't have to give them everything to accomplish
Right.
that one thing. And
Right.
I think even just learning how to do that would make a massive difference.